Good morning, students. Now we have come to chapter 7 in our course, Organizational Behavior. And this chapter will talk about the organizational culture, الثقافة التنظيمية. In this chapter, after finishing this chapter, you will be able to define the organizational culture and describe its common characteristics. ما هي الثقافة التنظيمية وما هي خصائص الثقافة التنظيمية. And you will be able to compare between the functional and dysfunctional effects of organizational culture on people on the organization. Also explain the factors that create and sustain the organizational culture. Show how the culture is transmitted to employees. ازاي نحن ننقل الثقافة اللي هي بتاعت المنظمة للموظفين. Demonstrate how ethical culture can be created. الثقافة التنظيمية الأخلاقية. Show how national culture may affect the way organizational culture is transported to different countries. We will begin with the definition. What is the organizational culture? Organizational culture refers to a system of shared meaning held by members that distinguish the organization from another organization. When the organization takes on a life of its own apart from any of its members, become valued for itself and acquires immortality. Research identifies 7 primary characteristics that capture the essence of any organizational culture. These 7 characteristics 7 خصائص للorganizational culture: innovation and risk-taking, attention to detail الانتباه للتفاصيل, outcome orientation الاهتمام بالمخرجات, people orientation الاهتمام بالناس, team orientation الاهتمام بفرق العمل, aggressiveness العدائية, stability والاستقرار. Do organization have uniform cultures؟ ده سؤال مهم. هل الorganization عندهم نفس أو ثقافة موحدة؟ We can answer this question by stating that culture is a descriptive term. It may act as substitute for formalization. Most organizations have a dominant culture and numerous sets of subcultures. عندهم ثقافات فرعية. A dominant culture expresses the core values that are shared by the majority of the organizational members. This is the dominant culture, الثقافة السائدة. However, the subcultures, which are many cultures within an organization, typically defined by department designations and geographical separation. We have also these core values. These are the primaries or dominant values, القيم الرئيسية, that are accepted throughout the organization. We also have this definition of the strong culture. What strong culture? What strong culture is? A culture in which the core values are intensely held and widely shared. What do cultures do? Cultures do many functions actually. They are boundary defining role. They define the boundary between one organization and the other. They convey a sense of identity and members for their members. They facilitate the generation of commitment to something larger than self-interest. They also enhances the stability of the social system. Culture also serves as sense-making and control mechanism, guides and shapes attitudes and behaviors of employees. Also, the culture share meanings ensure that everyone is aiming at the same direction. Culture as a liability. Constraints or barrier to change. Culture is a liability. Culture enhances organizational commitment and increases the consistency of employee behavior. They serve as a barrier to change. Culture is a liability when the shared values are not in agreement with those that will increase in the organizational effectiveness. It also serves as a liability when it is a barrier to diversity. The need diversity of the workforce without diluting commitment to core values. Also barrier to acquisitions and mergers, when the culture compatibility is often the primary concern or the problem when having some acquisitions or mergers. لو الاندماج أو الاستحواذ على شركات أخرى، تبقى الثقافة التنظيمية عائق أمام هذا الاستحواذ أو أمام هذا الاندماج. How culture begins? Once an organizational culture is established, it rarely fades away. The culture stems from the actions of the founders actually. Founders hired and keep employees who think and feel the same way they do. They should play as role model. The ultimate source of the organizational culture is the founders themselves. They create culture in many ways. The founders' own behavior act as a role model. They encourage employees to identify with them and thereby internalize their beliefs, values, and assumptions. الفاوندرز المؤسسين والتوب مانجمنت actually هم اللي بيقوموا بدور الرول موديل او الاكزامبل، المثل الاعلى اللي الموظفين بيحتذوا بيهم لو هم يعني committed to the organizational culture. المفترض ان الموظفين يمثلوا نفس السلوك زي المانجرز والتوب مانجمنت والفاوندرز للأورجنايزيشن. Keeping cultures alive by many techniques actually. By selecting those who are concerned with how the candidates will fill into the organization and provide information to candidates about the organization itself. When firstly selecting the candidates who will fill into position in that organization, لازم يكونوا متوافقين مع الثقافة التنظيمية وموافقين عليها before even hiring. Top management, senior executive help establish behavioral norms زي ما قلنا قبل كده. They are the role models and examples that are adopted by the organization. And by socialization, the process that helps new employee adapt to the organizational culture زي orientation,